Hello, Packer fans, and welcome to another edition of the Pack Attack Cast, brought to you from fans for fans. Please remember to like and subscribe as we continue to build out our channel. Got a lot of things to talk about today. First of all, we're going to take a look at the Sporting News' NFL Draft Big Board, their top 200 player rankings. We're probably going to go through maybe the top 50 or so really quickly. And then we're going to do another mock draft as we get closer to the NFL draft. So let's get right into it here. Remember to like and subscribe. We're going to switch over to the Sporting News NFL Draft Big Board 2025 Top 100 Player Rankings. Want to give them credit for the material. And this is the Sporting News rankings for the players regardless of team need. So team need is taken out of this. It's based primarily out of what we're looking for as far as the top players. Let's zoom in here a little bit. All right, so we got, first of all, a very popular player here, Travis Hunter, cornerback, wide receiver, Colorado. He's come out publicly and said that he wants to play both sides, so he wants to play offense and defense. So any team that drafts him is going to want to select him knowing the fact that he's going to want to play both ways. Now, it sounds great in theory, but the NFL is not college football, and I'm very skeptical about whether Travis Hunter can both play offense and defense, learn two schemes, and adjust to the opponent week to week. The NFL offenses and defenses are much more complex than what you see in college football. So I'm very skeptical about whether he can play both ways. Regardless, he's going to be off the board well before the Packers get to select a player. Abdul Carter, unless there's something dramatic that happens, he's going to be off the board. So we're going to move on to number 3, Cam Ward, quarterback, also going to be off the board before the Packers get here. He's arguably the best quarterback in a very middling quarterback class here. So Austin Gentry, wide receiver at running back at number 4. He's not what the Packers need, and he will be off the board. Ormond Membu. He is an offensive tackle from Missouri. He's the top offensive tackle. If for some crazy reason he was on the board, the Packers would probably take him because he's such an amazing offensive tackle, but he's going to be off the board. Shamar Stewart, edge, Texas A&M. Now, this is where things get interesting because I think there's a decent chance that Shamar Stewart could be on the board at 23 for the Green Bay Packers. He's arguably the top edge in this class, and I would be very excited if the Packers selected him. A lot of people are concerned that he might be a potential pick as far as picking him based on his potential versus his production, but I'd have no problem with Shamar Stewart being taken at 23 by the Packers. Next, we have Ted McMillan, wide receiver of Arizona, 6'4", 219. He's also a player that I expect to be off the board, but if he fell down to 23, we'd be very happy if the Packers took wide receiver McMillan here. Mason Graham, defensive tackle of Michigan. I do not expect him to be on the board, but again, he would be a great selection if he was available. Will Campbell of LSU did come in to visit with the Packers this past week. He's definitely in play if he's down there at 23. So, Kelvin Banks, I don't think he is much more of a prospect. And while the Packers like prospects at other positions, in particular defensive ends, they don't love prospects at tackle. So I don't think Kelvin Banks would be a Packers pick. He is number 10. Malachi Starks, center safety from Georgia. He would not be on the Packers board. We have arguably the best safeties in the business right now. Tyler Warren at 13, he would not be a Packers pick. Will Johnson at number 13, if he was down there at 23, I think he would be in the mix for the Green Bay Packers. James Pierce, he's an edge. He's one of the best edges in this class. Problem is, he's not a great run defender, and the Packers generally like to get edges that have the ability to defend the run. So I don't think James Pierce is going to be on the board for the Packers. We'll see. Jalen Walker, linebacker from Georgia. We've got two of the best, most athletic linebackers in the league right now. We're not looking for another linebacker, especially in the first round. I would expect them to look at linebacker after the 5th round. Jahad Campbell, another linebacker, not on the Packers board. Kenneth Grant, number 17, defensive tackle. Interesting player. He's definitely more of a run defender than a pass rusher. So he's definitely a possibility if he gets down to 23. We'll see. Jahdae Barron, cornerback. Jahdae Barron is a little undersized for the Packers. Usually they like to see cornerbacks that are at least 6 feet tall. He's 5'11", so definitely has the talent to start in this league. I just don't know if he's a Packer pick. Walter Nolan has been moving up the draft boards. He is at number 19 here. He definitely would be in the mix for the Packers as a pass rushing defensive tackle. Shadir Sanders, very controversial player at quarterback. He would not be on the board for the Packers. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver of Ohio State, 6'1", 202 pounds. If he gets down to 23, I think he would definitely be in consideration for the Packers. That's assuming a lot of the other players they talked about are already off the board. Miko Williams, edge of Georgia. He's another strong candidate for the Green Bay Packers. I expect him to be in consideration if he gets down to 23. Luther Burden, wide receiver of Missouri. He's got a lot of potential, but I don't think he's a Green Bay Packers pick because he does not like to block for the runner. And that's something that the Packers really rely on. Almost all of their wide receivers are great run blockers, and I don't think Luther Burden is going to be a fit for the Packers. Colston Loveland, tight end of Michigan, great player. He's not going to be on the Packers board. Nick Emanura, safety, South Carolina. Again, we don't need any safeties. Another interesting player here is Nick Skirton, edge of Texas A&M. He is definitely an interesting and explosive player on the edge. We'll see if he's still available. He's one player that definitely would be available if there was a run on edge. I think he's definitely could be in play. Tyler Booker, Georgia, guard of Alabama. This is not going to be a good fit for the Packers. Not this early in the draft. Donovan Irazaku, edge, Boston College. He did play with defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley, so that is a strong possibility. But he is a little undersized for the Green Bay Packers. If he fell to the second round, to our second round pick, then I think he would definitely be in play if we still hadn't selected an edge. Jackson Dart, quarterback, Old Mississippi. I think he's going to end up going to the Steelers at 21. So he's definitely going to be not a Packer pick. Mike Green, edge of Marshall. Edge for Marshall. He is getting a lot of attention because of his pure explosiveness. He is from a lower level school, which is a concern. Also, I've heard that there could be some personality issues with him. I don't think he would be a selection for the Packers unless you're talking about the second round. Omarion Hampton, running back, North Carolina. We are not in a situation where we need running backs. Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State. He's an interesting pick, but I think he would probably be a player that would go to the Packers in the second round. It wouldn't be a first round pick for him. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State, another offensive tackle for Ohio. Definitely could be an option for the Packers, maybe in the third round if he waits around that long. Next up, Gray Zabel, guard, North Carolina State. He's an interesting prospect. He actually plays offensive tackle, but most people project him to be a guard, at least in the first couple of years of the NFL, as he develops his skills. Matthew Golden, 35, on this list, wide receiver of Texas. He's definitely in play, but I expect Golden to be off the draft board well before the Packers pick. He's a very sexy pick to go in the top 20 of this draft. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle of Oregon. He is actually falling down a lot of draft boards right now. He's a very interesting player. He was originally, early on in the draft process, thought to be a top 20, top 25 player. But every time I look at a draft board, he's falling. So maybe in the second round for the Packers. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they took him in the first round to go against consensus, but we'll have to see what happens there. Donovan Jackson, guard, Ohio State, not a fit for the Packers. Jalen Higgins, he's a very popular, trendy pick right now for the Packers to take in the second round, but I don't really think he's the best fit for the Packers. We'll have to see what happens. Even here it says, Higgins is a strong physical target. He uses his frame well to get open. Has risen up boards as this year's potential Christian Watson. So, as we know, Christian Watson is out with an ACL injury for the Packers. So, a lot of people are saying Jaden Higgins wouldn't be a surprise for the Packers in the second round. Another player that is getting very trendy for the Packers to select in the second round is Jack Beck, wide receiver, TCU. He was a Senior Bowl standout, and the Green Bay Packers really love Senior Bowl players. That's been a trend in their picks the last couple years. He's a strong, fearless route runner with reliable hands and is a big target after the catch. So he's definitely in play for the Packers in the second round. Trey Amos, Ole Miss cornerback, also a trendy pick for the Packers in the second round. We'll see what happens there. JT Truamalu, edge of Ohio State. He is an interesting pick that could fall to the Packers in the second round if, for example, the Packers selected a wide receiver, defensive tackle, or an offensive tackle in the first round. This could be a player that they could take in the second round to get that pass rush going again. Darius Alexander, defensive tackle of Toledo. I really like him as a second round pick, especially if the Packers took a defensive end in the first round and then went for Darius Alexander as a defensive tackle in the second round. I'd be very excited about that combination. Along with TJ Sanders, he's a defensive tackle of South Carolina. He is also an interesting pick for the Packers, but he's a little undersized, so I'm concerned about whether he would hold up against the run, which is a big part of the Packers' defensive alignment. So I think we've done a good job of looking at some of the primary players here. Let's highlight a couple more. Maxwell Hairston, white cornerback, Kentucky. He'd be also an interesting player for the Packers to consider in the second round. Let's just flip through this quickly, see if there's anybody else that would really be Princely Umanaman, edge, Ole Miss. He definitely is an intriguing pass rusher, but I think he's more of a 3-4 than a 4-3, so I don't think this would be a good fit. Siobhan Ravel is also a very trendy pick going to the Packers. I'm a little concerned about his age. He is going to be 24 when the season starts, and the Packers really try to shy away from early picks that are over 22, 23 years old. So it'll be interesting, actually over 23. So it'll be interesting to see if they go away from pattern and consider this player. So that's basically some of the top 60 here. We could go through the whole list, but what I wanted to do is take a look at a new mock draft. So let's switch over to that right now. Let's take the information that we've gotten from the past week, plus some of those players that we just looked at, and do a new mock draft for the Green Bay Packers. In this mock draft, I'm not going to be shy away from trading down or up if I feel that the value is there. So let's start out right now. Do another fresh mock draft for the Green Bay Packers. Okay, let's take a look at the top of the draft here. Just see. We've got Abdul Carter going to the Titans. That would be a surprise. Travis Hunter going to the Browns. Not a surprise. Mason Graham going third. Austin Gentry going to the Patriots. McMillan going number 5 to the Jaguars. Bit of a surprise. Jahdae Brown. And we'll just kind of page through some of these picks. Walter Nolan going at 16. Kenneth Gratt 17. Matthew Golden 18. Ibuka 20 to the Broncos. Definitely something to keep in mind there. We have Josh Simmons to Ohio State, from Ohio State to the Steelers. Luther Burden to the Chargers right before the Green Bay Packers. So let's look at what we have available here. We've got James Pierce, Kelvin Banks, so Mario Hampton. I'm not seeing a lot of the players that I would like to see the Packers go for here. So I'm actually okay trading down slightly here. What I'd like to do is see if we can trade with, for example, the Houston Texans, give up the 25th, the 23rd for the 25th, and can we trade our second? Trade for their second, well, by giving up our third, 55% chance. What if we throw in another pick here? Our last pick in the draft. So in this trade, we go from 23rd to 25th. We would get their 58th pick and give up our 87th pick. And we'd also give up a, well, let's make this a little bit more realistic. We'll give up our 198th pick in the draft. So let's see what happens here. We'll try one more time. All right, trade was accepted. All right, so none of the players I liked are off the board here. So let's take a look at Shamar Stewart, edge, Texas A&M. Let's draft him. I'd be very happy to pick him up and trade down. All right, next pick up would be 54. And let's see what we have that would be a good fit for the Packers here. We already picked up a defensive end. So we've got Jalen Royals here. Feels a little early for him. Looking for a corner, possibly. All right, a lot of the players that we would be looking to pick up wouldn't have to be drafted here. So what if we trade down a little bit? We do have the 58th pick right here, and I think a lot of our players would be available if we drop down to 58 or longer. So let's see, what would be a good trading partner for us? Possibly the Buffalo Bills at 62. So let's take a look at 62. So we would give up 56. Sorry, 54 to go down to 62. And pick up 109. So we pick up a pick just outside of the top 100. So I think I'm going to actually take this trade. Okay, trade was accepted. All right, so our next pick is now 58, which is our original second round pick. So let's see what we have here that would be interesting. I really do like Darian Porter here. Trey Harris would be interesting. I really feel like we could actually trade down a little bit more. So let's see what we could do here. What if we trade down possibly with the Eagles? We're doing this live here, so we're going to go from 58 to 64. And the 96 pick. And try to give up our 159. So we're trading down slightly to move up significantly with that pick from 159 to 96. Let's give that a trade. All right, so we move down again. And the reason I'm doing that is I think we could get an interesting player here. I feel like there's some significant value on this board, but we can't keep moving down forever. So let's take a look at Trey Harris, wide receiver of Missouri. 6'3", 230. Harris projects as an alluring wide receiver 3 type for an offense that likes to push the ball down the field. His route tree and separation leaves something to be desired, but he can keep a defensive honest with his field stretching ability. Let's take a look at Trey Harris here. We're going to draft him. Our next pick. So we picked up Shamar Stewart and Trey Harris so far. We've got a second round pick still because we traded down. Looking for some big needs. Tackle, but again, I think it's a little too early to take a tackle. There's lots of good tackles down here. So what if we try looking for another trade partner? I know I'm trading down a lot. What if we trade down to 71 here? So we're going to trade down to 71, possibly with the Saints. 71, 64. Can we get 93 for 124? Okay, so I'll take that trade. All right, this is definitely a trade-intensive mock draft here, but I want to try to get some significant value wherever we can here. So, Alfred Collins would be an interesting pick here. I actually like this pick because Alfred Collins, 6'5", 320. He could play anywhere from the 0 technique to the 5 technique. I'm going to go ahead and take Alfred Collins here. All right, so we picked a edge, wide receiver, interior defensive lineman, And now we're looking at pick 93. This is actually a really good place for us to look at some potential centers, or sorry, tackles here. So let's look at Cameron Williams, tackle. All right, so let's look at his stats. So this is a player we definitely would look at to develop, which is great because he's got huge upside at 6'5", 335. His age is right where the Packers like it, 21.5. And he's a player that we can actually develop. He could either play tackle or guard for the Packers. I think this is a great value pick right here, so we're going to pick that tackle up. And we're right back on the clock at 96. All right. Okay, one player I really like here is Dorian Strong. Also like Torrey Horton as a wide receiver for Colorado State if we wanted to add some more depth. At the wide receiver position, there's a lot of interesting ways we can go here. We do have another pick coming up at 109. So what if we go with Dorian Strong here? He's a little undersized for the Packers. He's a little old. So let's not do that. What if we look at trading down here again? Dolphins are interested. Wouldn't mind trading down to the 4th round here. Maybe the top of the 4th. Look at a trade with the Titans, for example. 103, 96, and maybe pick up 120 for 237. Good chance that let's try to offer that. See if we get lucky. Oh, we did get lucky. Trade was accepted. Okay. We did pick up some nice picks there. So let's take a look at what we've got on the board. We've got Kyle Williams, which I like a lot, at wide receiver. Kyle Williams is a sneaky picker, Packers pick. 6 foot tall, 186. I do like his production. But I know Torrey Horton did go in for a visit. So maybe we try to select him further on. Let's look at another interior player here. 6'1", 304. Ideal size for a nose tackle. He won't likely be a big backfield presence, but he could be a good rotational nose tackle. This would be a really good pick for the Packers right here for the future. I like that pick actually quite a bit. Like Torrey Horton here. Wonder if we could do another trade down. Now the Packers are not going to trade around this much in the draft, but this is a good example of how you could try to get as much value from the draft here. So we could go down to 117. and pick up an additional pick here at 189. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now I actually really like Torrey Horton here as a nice wide receiver pick for the Packers. We're back on the clock. 4th round. Okay. I do like Tyler Batty here quite a bit. So let's take a look at our draft so far. We've got defensive end, wide receiver, interior defensive line, tackle, interior defensive line, and wide receiver. I think the best bang for our buck here is going to be another edge player, Tyler Batty, which I think would be a great value. Offers legit size and above average explosiveness, making him a scheme versatile defensive end, playing both odd and even fronts. He has a high floor, mid-round prospect. Very solid pass rush win rate for this late in the draft. We're going to take another defensive end. All right. We're down to 189. Still in the 6th round. See if we could get some good value here. Oh, Jalen Travis. We have him available. And also Kyle McCord, which I like. But I think if I have a chance to take a tackle here, I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's take a look at Jalen Travis, tackle, Iowa State. Travis is a big, long, and explosive offensive tackle whose traits profile best in a zone blocking scheme. While he has the size, his kick slide, quickness, and length aren't quite to NFL starter level yet, making him an edge projection a concern. But that's okay, because the Packers love taking tackles and putting them in as guard. Still, after allowing just a 2.5% pressure rate, he's an appealing day 3 draft and develop candidate. I like it. We're going to take Jalen Davis here. All right, we're down to our last pick here at 250. All right, 250. All right. All right, we're going to do something here that I really like. I really like, and I've been looking at Za Frazier as a potential late round steal. I really like his potential. He's coming from the Roadrunners from Utah State, but he's got a lot of potential. He's got great run defense grade, great coverage grade, and he, at 6'3", 185, is a very interesting option, especially this late in the draft. I'm going to take him. All right, let's see how he did. All right. All right, Shamir Stewart got us an A, especially since we traded down. Some good value there. Trey Harris is a B, but I think he is definitely a player that the Packers would like to get. We took some picks for the future here in the 3rd round. I'm not sure if I believe this C+ grade. This C+ grade here as well. I also think these players are great fit for the Packers in the future. We've got Corey Horton as a B+. We've got Tyler Batty as a B+. Jalen Travis, I'm not sure why he ended up being an F here. We actually drafted him later than he was projected. And Zaw Frazier, an A-. Now let's take a look at the number of picks we got here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 picks with 7 draft picks going in. So we got some definite value there. I'm pretty happy with this draft, actually. We've addressed our edge position, our wide receiver position, our depth at tackle and defensive line. Right here in the center of the draft here. Really like these picks. Not sure why we got C+ there. I like Corey Horton as an additional wide receiver for depth, since we have multiple wide receivers that are going to be free agents next year. Tyler Batty is a great value in the 4th round as an edge rusher, another tackle, and another corner. I'm very happy with this draft. So hopefully we'll see this bear fruit. If the Packers got anything close to this in the draft, I would be pretty happy with the production. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Pack Attack podcast. So definitely give us a like and subscribe as we're building up our subscribers and our likes on our videos. And we'll see you soon with another video. Go Pack Go!